My name is Julia Foster. I'm 32, and for most of my life, I've been the quiet one, the responsible one. I keep a notebook where I track every bill, every promise, every "I'll pay you next week" that never comes. My apartment is immaculate because order is the only thing I can control in a family that thrives on chaos. That Christmas Eve, my phone buzzed. I picked it up, expecting perhaps a cheerful greeting from my parents, maybe a joke from my sister. Instead, 6 dry words glared at me from the screen. "Thanks for existing, don't come." No context, no warmth, just rejection, a message that felt like the final seal on a lifetime of being overlooked. I sat on the floor, legs folded, staring at the text as if it might somehow change if I concentrated hard enough. It didn't. My sister Alina had been living with me for over a year. She had lost her job, she said, and while she figured things out, I quietly covered everything: rent, utilities, groceries. I didn't complain. I convinced myself that helping my sister was what a responsible adult did, what a good family member did. But deep down, I knew I was being used. That night, she left for Christmas dinner at our parents' house. Tossing her coat over her shoulder, she paused at my reflection in the mirror. "Oh, in case they ask," she said, flicking a curl over her shoulder. "I told them you're just kind of squatting here." Squatting. My own apartment. The words stung sharper than any slap. "You told them what?" I asked quietly, my hands frozen in the dishwater. "Relax," she said, already at the door. "It's not a big deal. I just didn't want them thinking I'm letting you stay here rent-free. Easier this way." "I am paying the rent," I said, quietly, flatly. "Yeah, well, they don't need to know that." And she left. I didn't call, I didn't text, I didn't try to explain. I just sat at the kitchen table, staring at the cheap string lights I'd hung weeks ago, thinking how many more years I'd keep this up, paying for people who had already decided I didn't belong. By midnight, I made a decision. I got up, pulled out the toolkit from the hallway closet, and changed the locks. No hesitation, no guilt. When I went to bed, the apartment felt lighter, quieter, mine, maybe for the first time. The next morning, around 8:17 a.m., I heard the fumbling of keys at the door. A click, a curse, another click, then knocking, then pounding, then silence. I didn't answer, but I left something for her: 2 gift-wrapped boxes. One medium-sized, tied with a perfect ribbon. The other smaller, still moving. I had spent months covering her bills: rent, groceries, student loans she promised to repay. When she got fired again, I didn't ask questions. I just stepped in. I took extra shifts, sold my old laptop, gave up vacations, hobbies, even dating. I convinced myself it was temporary. But temporary had become routine. Routine had become obligation, and obligation had turned into a quiet resentment I could no longer ignore. Alina had always been clever with words. As kids, she cried her way out of trouble. As adults, she cried her way into everyone's wallet, even our parents. To them, she was the creative, slightly chaotic soul, the one who meant well. And I? Too serious, too controlling, too cold. But cold is what you become when love comes with conditions. Months ago, I had stopped going to family dinners. Not because I didn't want to see them, but because I couldn't keep pretending every conversation wouldn't end in a guilt trip. "You're the stable one. She's struggling. Why are you always so difficult?" I was tired. Tired of paying for everything. Tired of being the only adult in the room. Tired of waking up every day in an apartment I paid for just to be told I was a burden. 3 weeks before Christmas, something snapped. We were in the living room after my 12-hour shift. Takeout on the table. "Can you Venmo me for my part?" she asked casually, eyes glued to her phone. "You mean the takeout I bought with my card, with my money, while you haven't paid rent in 3 months?" I asked, blinking. "Yeah, but you chose to do that," she shrugged. "No one forced you." That was the moment I realized she didn't feel guilty. Not once. She wasn't using me out of desperation. She was using me because I let her. 3 weeks later, Christmas Eve. That message from my father arrived. And Alina? She was sipping wine, smirking. "You can't really expect them to see you as family when you act like a tenant, you know?" So I changed the locks. I left her the gift boxes I'd bought, plus a second box containing a copy of her growing debt under my name and a flash drive of recordings, her laughing to her friends, bragging about exploiting me. One of the clips had her saying, "Honestly, she deserves it. She's like a bank with no overdraft fees. Why wouldn't I take advantage?" The smaller box trembled on the mat because of the phone hidden inside, set to buzz repeatedly. I wanted her to feel, for just a moment, what I had felt all year: confused, rattled, shaken. That night, I reheated leftovers in the kitchen when the pounding started. Not a knock. Someone wanted to break the door down. I didn't panic. I felt calm. I opened the door slowly. There she was, Alina, hair disheveled, eyeliner smudged, rage written across her face. "What is this?" she screamed, holding the vibrating box like it was a bomb. "A Christmas present," I said, tilting my head. "It's vibrating." Her mouth opened, then shut, then opened again. "You should," I said, stepping aside. "Come in. You don't have keys anymore." She stormed in, dropping the box on the coffee table. Ribbon half untied, lid yanked off, staring at its contents. Inside, stacks of printed screenshots of her. Calling me a freeloader, a flash drive labeled, "Dad, play this if you have a spine," and a sticky note. "Your lease is up, emotionally and otherwise." Her eyes went wide. "You're heartless." "No," I said, calm. "Just done." The morning after I changed the locks, I didn't rush to open the door. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping reheated coffee, listening to the quiet hum of my refrigerator. The apartment felt different, lighter, safer, mine. Outside, I could hear Alina's muffled curses as she tried the keys that no longer worked. I didn't intervene. I simply observed. Inside the two gift-wrapped boxes I had left, one contained groceries she'd claimed she needed. The other was the one that mattered: evidence. Evidence of every bill she had dodged, every debt she had shifted onto me, every casual exploit. It had started small: a missed rent payment here, a grocery bill there. I had shrugged it off. I had convinced myself it was temporary. But temporary stretched into months, months into a routine, and routine into a suffocating obligation. I began to see it for what it was: deliberate. Then came the credit card statement. I didn't even have to open it to know something was wrong. The name on the account was mine. My heart beat faster as I scanned the charges: $6,438.72 spent on Sephora, Apple, Zara, a spa, even a tattoo deposit. I sank into the edge of the bed, staring at the screen. My stomach turned. My sister had not just freeloaded, she had stolen my identity. And all this time I had been oblivious. I called the bank. The representative confirmed what I had feared. The account had been opened with my social security number, my email, and my full name. Every single purchase had been billed to me. I didn't confront her immediately. I didn't yell. I didn't storm around the apartment. I went quiet. I observed. I documented. I took screenshots of conversations she had bragged about to friends. One in particular chilled me. "Honestly, she deserves it. She's like a bank with no overdraft fees. Why wouldn't I take advantage?" I realized that her actions weren't driven by desperation. She was exploiting me because she knew she could, because I had allowed it. The Christmas message from my father that had hit me so hard earlier, "Thanks for existing. Don't come," suddenly made sense in a new, bitter light. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource, someone to manage her mistakes, to clean up the chaos she created. I decided to act. I would give her a taste of her own chaos, but not out of revenge, out of necessity. The smaller of the gift boxes I left on the mat contained the flash drive with the recordings, a copy of her credit card statement, and the printed screenshots of her manipulations. I placed a phone set to buzz on loop inside so that she would feel the disorientation I had felt all year. Confusion, rattled, shaken, just a fraction of it. I took a step back and imagined the moment she opened it. Her pride, her sense of control, her delusions of entitlement, all crumbling in silence. That afternoon, Alina's voice drifted from the hallway as she struggled with the locks. Her anger was palpable. I stayed in the kitchen, reheating leftovers, watching the kettle steam. And when she finally stormed in, she held the box like it was a ticking bomb. "What is this?" she screamed, eyebrows knitting together in disbelief. "A Christmas present," I said, tilting my head. "It's vibrating." Her initial rage dissolved into confusion as she opened the lid, revealing the stacks of evidence I had collected. Printed screenshots of her calling me a freeloader, a flash drive labeled "Dad, play this if you still have a spine," and a sticky note with a single line. Your lease is up, emotionally and otherwise. Her eyes went wide. You're heartless. No, I said, calm. Just done. For the first time, I felt a weight lift. Not just the exhaustion of being exploited, but the years of being silenced, overlooked, and taken for granted. I had finally set a boundary I would not bend. Alina didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning. There would be no quick apologies, no casual excuses. I had gathered months of evidence, documented every transaction, every lie, every manipulation. And now I had the leverage to reclaim my life, not with anger, but with clarity and precision. Sitting back at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, I allowed myself a quiet thought. The season of silent suffering was over. It was time to let the evidence speak, and it would speak loudly. Alina stormed into my apartment, slamming the door behind her. Her hair was messy, eyeliner smudged, rage etched across her face. The vibrating gift box trembled on the coffee table. "What is this?" she screamed, eyes darting between the stack of printed screenshots and the flash drive. I stayed calm, leaning against the counter. "A Christmas present," I said. "You don't have keys anymore, so you'll have to come in to see it." She froze for a moment, then yanked the lid off the box. Inside were stacks of printed messages where she had called me a freeloader, laughed at my generosity, and mocked my stability. A flash drive was labeled, "Dad, play this if you still have a spine." And on top, a sticky note, "Your lease is up, emotionally and otherwise." Her eyes widened, her voice faltering. "You're heartless." "No," I said, measured, calm. "Just done." Then the phone rang. Speaker on. It was my father. "Julia, what is going on? Your sister just showed us what you left her. That's cruel. What happened to family?" I swallowed, my voice steady. "You mean the family that told me not to come to Christmas? That wasn't about her. It was about you." A pause. Then my father, defensive yet confused. "You've been cold, isolating yourself. You told me not to come?" "Yes," I said, and I listened. Alina grabbed the phone. "Dad, he's gone completely nuts. He changed the locks. He's stalking me. He planted—" "Oh, please," I said, snatching the phone back. "Why don't you tell him what's really in that box?" Silence. "Dad," I continued, voice steady, "do you know who's been using my name to open credit accounts? Do you know who owes $6,438 under my identity?" A long pause. Then my father whispered, "Is that true?" Alina shouted over him, "He's making that up. He's trying to get attention." "Then why does Capital One have her email attached to an account with my social security number?" I asked. "Why are there receipts from stores she shops at in my name?" No answer. The moment of silence was broken by a soft knock at the door. Unexpected. Tentative. I opened it to see Mike, Alina's ex-boyfriend, standing there, voice trembling. Not with fear, but with fury. "I need to talk to you," he said, looking straight at me. "I just found out someone's been using my name too. 2 iPhones, a hotel booking. They called me for payment today." Alina froze. "What are you doing here?" Mike's gaze shifted to her. "Was it you?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again, searching for excuses. I stepped forward, calm. "I think you've been playing more people than you realize." Mike looked at the box on the table, at the flash drive, at the screenshots. "Maybe we should stop playing her game," he said, finally seeing the evidence laid bare. Alina blinked, stunned. She had never been without control, without someone to manipulate. For the first time, she was silent. No script, no tears, no fake cries of innocence. I tossed her coat onto the chair. "Your things are in the hallway, right next to the trash. Feel free to guess which is which." She left without a word. The elevator doors closed, leaving a hush in the apartment that wasn't emptiness, it was earned. Sitting back at the kitchen table, I felt it. The first weight of liberation. Not revenge, not gloating, just clarity and control. Mike stayed on the couch, quiet but supportive. I knew he understood boundaries, respect, and the difference between love and manipulation. That night, for the first time in months, the apartment felt like mine, truly mine. And I realized, reclaiming your life doesn't require an apology from the person who broke it. It requires refusing to let them break you any longer. The morning after Alina left, I sat at my desk, laptop open, coffee steaming beside me. I didn't feel triumphant yet. Triumph comes later, but I felt something equally powerful: control. Step 1 was documentation. Every text, every screenshot, every receipt, every credit card statement, every utility bill she had dodged or opened in my name. I had it all. Months of exploitation, carefully archived. Months of my life spent cleaning up after her, finally organized into evidence that couldn't be ignored. I called a lawyer, a sharp man, professional, no nonsense. "Do you have proof?" he asked. I slid a flash drive across the desk. Every dollar documented, every lie recorded, every transaction traceable. Even my parents' unwitting complicity was on there, added to accounts without my knowledge, supporting Alina's schemes. He plugged it in, eyes widening. "This isn't just identity theft," he said slowly. "This is long-term financial exploitation." "Yes," I said, "and I want restitution." Weeks later, certified letters arrived at my parents' home, at Alina's, and to my grandmother. One by one, the evidence hit them where it mattered. Legally, formally, inescapably. My phone buzzed, Micah's voice on the line, incredulous but steady. "You're really doing this?" "Yes," I said. "It's about more than money. It's about boundaries, about accountability, about stopping a cycle that's gone on too long." Step 2 was the calculation. I opened a spreadsheet and began counting. 18 months of paying rent for 2 people, utilities, groceries, her random emergencies, all tallied. By the time I reached the total, my stomach turned. $17,892. Not including the emotional labor, the lost hours, the sacrifices. Step 3 was filing the suit. I wasn't just fighting for the stolen money. I was reclaiming the years I had silently given away. The courtroom was tense. Alina entered in beige, seemingly auditioning for sympathy. Mom wore black, expression guarded. Dad avoided eye contact. My lawyer laid out everything, page after page of evidence, receipts, screenshots, recordings. Alina tried to cry. Mom claimed confusion. Dad looked tired, defeated. The judge, however, was clear-eyed. She reviewed the evidence and asked pointed questions. Documents bearing my name without consent, the credit accounts, the unauthorized utility contracts. The truth was undeniable. The ruling came swiftly. $13,000 in restitution, court costs covered, and a formal warning on Alina's record. Justice, measured and unflinching, but not cruel. Weeks later, I received a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. Me and Ellie, Alina's daughter from years ago, maybe 4, sitting on my shoulders, laughing, tiny hands gripping my face. On the back, a shaky note. "I'm sorry for how my mom treated you. Thank you for everything. Ellie." I stared at the words until they blurred. I didn't know how she had sent it. Maybe my grandmother, maybe fate. But the note mattered. Not for nostalgia, not for obligation, but because it symbolized the release of the past. Walking away doesn't mean stopping love. Walking away means learning to love yourself more. That's not revenge. That's freedom. My apartment was mine. The walls held no guilt, no whispered manipulations, no uninvited chaos. The air was still. The peace was unfamiliar, quiet, and powerful. I had set boundaries. I had enforced them. I had documented the exploitation and claimed what was mine. And finally, I could breathe. 3 months after the court ruling, silence reigned in my apartment, but it was no longer empty. It was deliberate, earned, and profoundly healing. No messages from my parents, no calls from Alina, no awkwardly staged family dinners, not even a birthday card. The absence was a gift I hadn't realized I'd longed for. Mike still visited occasionally, quietly supportive, never intrusive. His presence reminded me that some people enter your life not to take, but to witness the reclamation of it. The apartment, my sanctuary, felt alive. I opened the fridge, and everything inside belonged to me. No one had borrowed, eaten, or wasted anything without my consent. I could sit on the couch and not feel a single judgmental gaze imagining my failures. For the first time in years, I was allowed to simply exist, uninterrupted. Occasionally, I would catch myself replaying memories with Alina, with my parents, with the quiet betrayals. But I no longer felt anger in the old way. Bitterness had been replaced with understanding. I hadn't lost family. I had gained autonomy. I hadn't failed as a sister. I had stopped being exploited. And then, one unremarkable afternoon in May, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a single photograph. Me and Ellie, Alina's daughter, maybe 4 years old, smiling at the camera. Tiny hands on my face, laughter frozen in time. On the back, a note written in shaky, unfamiliar handwriting. I'm sorry for how my mom treated you. Thank you for everything. Ellie. I traced the words with my fingers. I didn't know how she had found my address, and I didn't need to. The message wasn't about reconciliation with Alina. It was about recognition, about knowing that someone had seen the effort, the patience, and the love I had poured out, even when unreciprocated. I placed the photograph in my desk drawer, not to dwell on the past, but as a reminder that walking away doesn't mean you stop caring. Walking away means choosing yourself, protecting your peace, and letting others take responsibility for their actions. Occasionally, I thought of my parents. Sometimes I wondered if they ever regretted asking me not to come to Christmas, or if they realized how much I had quietly endured. But the answer didn't matter anymore. Their absence was a boundary I had finally enforced, and boundaries are not cruel. They are necessary. I had spent years shrinking myself to accommodate everyone else's comfort, smiling through insults, writing checks instead of setting limits, absorbing guilt that wasn't mine. I had given until I was depleted. Now, for the first time, I gave to myself. The apartment remained the same, the view unchanged, but everything felt different. Every surface, every chair, every object was mine to command, mine to enjoy. The quiet was no longer passive, it was active, deliberate, a testament to the life I had earned. Alina, my parents, even the ghosts of past obligations, they were behind me. I didn't harbor revenge, I didn't linger on punishment. I had done what was necessary. I had stopped destroying myself to protect others. And in that stillness, in the quiet hum of my own life, I felt alive, free, whole. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't victory over them. This was the reclamation of my soul. This was freedom.